Before we begin, a word of caution. The story you are about to hear is based on true events reported in a remote village. It contains details that some viewers may find deeply disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. In the heart of a desolate region, nestled far from the bustling noise of modern life, lies a quiet village called Nurabad. It's a place where time seems to have stood still, where traditions are held sacred, and ancient tales are whispered from one generation to the next. But beneath its tranquil surface, a deep-seated fear grips the hearts of its people. This fear isn't of bandits or wild animals, but of a single, ancient entity. A banyan tree that stands alone at the edge of the village, its gnarled branches reaching towards the sky like skeletal fingers. They call it the haunted tree. For over 300 years, stories have been passed down about this colossal banyan. Its sprawling roots, thick as a man's waist, are said to claw deep into the earth, anchoring not just the tree but something far more sinister. The villagers believe that beneath its dark, tangled heart resides a powerful Jinn, an ancient spirit bound to the land. They say it was summoned by a dark sorcerer centuries ago and has remained there ever since, a silent, malevolent guardian of its domain. The air around the tree is always colder, the silence more profound, and the shadows deeper than anywhere else in Nurabad. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the land, a palpable sense of dread descends upon the village. An unspoken rule, a law of survival, dictates that no one, absolutely no one, ventures near the banyan tree after sunset. The stories are chillingly consistent. Those who dared to challenge the legend, whether out of bravado or disbelief, were never seen again. They simply vanished, swallowed by the suffocating darkness that surrounds the tree, leaving behind nothing but a lingering, cautionary tale for the living. The wind itself seems to carry their faint, desperate cries. But one summer, this age-old fear was met with modern skepticism. Three friends, Rian, Aisha, and Samir, arrived from the city to visit distant relatives. They were young, educated, and filled with the kind of confidence that city life often instills. They had heard the fearful whispers about the haunted tree and the Jinn, but to them, these were just rustic superstitions, ghost stories told to scare children. They didn't believe in spirits or ancient curses. They believed in logic, in science, in what they could see and prove. That evening, as they sat around a crackling fire, the village elder recounted the latest disappearance, a young shepherd who had strayed too close to the tree at dusk. While the villagers listened with solemn faces, the three friends exchanged knowing smirks. Later that night, fueled by a mix of youthful arrogance and curiosity, Rian proposed a challenge. "This is all nonsense," he declared with a laugh. "A Jinn? A haunted tree? It's just a way to keep people in line. I say we go there. Tonight. Let's go at midnight with a camera and prove once and for all that there is no Jinn." Aisha and Samir, caught up in the thrill of the dare, quickly agreed. Just before the clock struck midnight, they set out. Armed with only a high-powered torch and a digital camera to document their adventure, they left the warmth of the village behind and walked towards the looming silhouette of the banyan tree. The night was eerily quiet, the only sounds being their own footsteps crunching on dry leaves and the persistent, howling wind that seemed to push against them, as if warning them to turn back. A tense, heavy music seemed to play in the air itself, each gust of wind a sinister note. As they drew closer, a strange thing happened. The relentless wind, which had been whipping around them just moments before, suddenly died down completely. The world fell into an unnerving, absolute silence. Then, a new sound broke the stillness, the distant, frantic barking of village dogs, a chorus of fear echoing from afar. Samir stopped, his bravado wavering. "Wait," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Did you feel that? Why did the wind stop?" A cold dread began to seep into their hearts, heavier than the midnight air. From the dense canopy of the ancient banyan tree, a sound began to emerge. It wasn't the rustling of leaves, but a soft, sibilant whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was a cold, dry sound, like sand scraping against stone, forming a single chilling phrase that slithered into their ears. "Go back." The massive branches of the tree began to sway slowly, rhythmically, in the dead, still air, moving with an unnatural, deliberate grace. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, a chorus of ghostly voices joining the first. Aisha, who had been nervously panning the camera towards the tree's trunk, suddenly let out a choked gasp. Her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. "Look," she stammered, her finger trembling as she pointed. "On the trunk, someone is watching us." In the camera's viewfinder, and now with their own eyes, they saw it. A shimmering, formless shape, a patch of white that seemed to coalesce out of the darkness, clinging to the bark like a shroud. It had no distinct features, yet they felt an undeniable gaze fixed upon them, filled with an ancient, unspeakable malice. The white shadow began to stretch and contort, rising from the trunk and elongating into a tall, slender figure. Its form remained blurry, its face a swirling vortex of shadow, but its presence was suffocating. A long, distorted shadow detached from the tree, falling across the ground and creeping toward them like a living thing. The rhythmic, muffled thud of a heartbeat filled the air, growing louder and faster, synchronizing with their own frantic pulses. They were paralyzed, trapped in a waking nightmare as the Jinn slowly, deliberately revealed itself. Samir and Aisha were frozen in fear, but Rayyan was different. He stood utterly still, his face a mask of blank shock. His eyes, which had been wide with terror just a second ago, suddenly went vacant. The color drained from them, leaving two milky white orbs staring into the darkness. "Rayyan!" Aisha cried out, her voice cracking. She shook his arm, but he was unresponsive, like a statue. "Rayyan, can you hear me?" But Rayyan didn't answer. He simply stood there, his gaze fixed on the horrifying apparition before them. Then, a voice came from Rayyan's lips, but it wasn't his own. It was a low, guttural whisper, layered with a chilling echo that seemed to reverberate from the depths of the earth itself. His mouth barely moved as the words escaped. "He is coming." The voice was ancient, filled with a sorrow and a warning that chilled Aisha and Samir to the bone. It was the voice of the damned, speaking through their friend. At that moment, they knew Rayyan was no longer with them. He had been taken. Panic shattered their paralysis. The torch in Samir's hand began to flicker erratically, plunging them into intermittent darkness. The camera display glitched, a cacophony of static and distorted images flashing across the screen. With a shared scream of pure terror, Aisha and Samir turned and ran, their heavy, ragged breaths tearing through the night. They didn't look back. They couldn't. The sound of their own frantic footsteps was drowned out by a deafening roar that seemed to erupt from the tree itself, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. The next morning, the sun rose over a scene of chaos. A search party of police and villagers scoured the area around the banyan tree. They found Aisha and Samir huddled together at the edge of the village, incoherent with shock and babbling about shadows and whispers. They found the discarded camera, its memory card corrupted beyond recovery. But of Rian, there was no trace. He had vanished, just like all the others. He was gone, forever. To this day, the old banyan tree stands at the edge of Nurabad, a dark monument to the village's fear. The nights are quieter now, the warnings more urgent, but sometimes, when the wind is just right, the villagers claim they can hear a new sound carried on the breeze. It's a faint, desperate whisper that seems to echo from the haunted branches, a familiar voice crying out into the eternal darkness. Help me. Remember, some legends are born from truth, and some places are steeped in a darkness that should never be disturbed. Thank you for watching. If you want to hear more stories from the shadows, make sure to follow our channel and turn on notifications. Stay safe.